Hi to you all, and thanks for tuning in. Now, today we're going to talk about a great technique called a multi-timbral arpeggiator, which is basically a normal arpeggiator, but instead of addressing a single sound source, we will be using its output and dividing it between as many instruments as you want. So what we're going to do is we're going to have two chapters, one in which you create the arpeggiator and the other one in which we turn it into a great musical tool. So make sure you watch them both because they're going to be great. So this is how it works. Alright, so good. This is our project here. This is our session, arrange window, and we you can see here that I have loaded 4 different instruments, and used to an ultrabeat sculpture and an instance of EXS24, which are the ones that are going to be addressed by our arpeggiator. So the first thing is to create a arpeggiator. So we go into our environment window, and we see here all the objects that we have loaded in our session, and we go to this local menu and choose arpeggiator. So now an arpeggiator is created, and if you click on the object, you see all the parameters here that you can tweak. So I am trying to get a sound with all this, a sort of a textualized sound that has a random character to it. So what I will choose here in these parameters are settings that help me to get that random character. The first thing is I don't want the direction of the arpeggio and the order in which it plays the notes that I'm playing to be very predictable, to either go up or go down or up and down and so on. So I am going to choose a random selection of notes, so it doesn't follow a very defined pattern. The same goes for the velocity. We can set that to random. I mean, you can try these things out and see what it does for you, and you can always change it back. Resolution, I'm going to keep the 8th note. It's fine for the example here. The other thing I would like to have is different the octave settings here. What it does is it doesn't necessarily always play the very note that you're playing, but with this you tell it to choose from different octaves, so that also gives you a bit of a variation in the color of what you're playing. So okay, so we go back to our arrange window, and now we need to reassign any of these tracks to the arpeggiator lane, the arpeggiator track. So the MIDI information that we're using here addresses and reaches the arpeggiator. So of course, now if we go back to our environment window, we need to set up the arpeggiator to address any of these instruments. It could be any of them. We'll start with the first one. So now we play this back, you will see a normal right, you get the idea. It's a mono timbral patch and mono timbral presets that I've chosen for the ES2, so you see it plays one note at a time, even though it's a 3-note chord progression. So of course this is the normal way you would set up an arpeggiator, and I'm sure you know perfectly well how to do this, so I'm sort of rushing through it. But what we need to do now is to get our arpeggiator to address all these instruments at the same time and with the same basic MIDI information. Now for that purposes, let us see what happens once the MIDI information leaves the arpeggiator. And to show you, I'm going to open a monitor object, which is this monitor, and you feed the output of the arpeggiator into it, and you press play. Well, you can see, let's see, from right to left, this column here displays the velocities, and you can see they're very they're very different, because they've been set to randomize the velocity, so it will change the settings from your original played velocity in a random fashion. These notes will obviously depend on what you have played there, and this is the MIDI channel. It is all coming through, and now that is our crucial aspect, because we want to create different MIDI channels to then send these different channels to individual instruments. So to do that, we are going to create a transformer object, and this is a very versatile little thing that you can use for so many things. I'm sure you've used it before. What we are going to tell it to do, if you double click the object, it'll open this window, and this is a window. You can read more about this in the manual. It's a very versatile environment in which you can set a certain set of rules that you can then process. What we want is to tell it, take the MIDI information from the arpeggiator, only look at the MIDI channel information and do something to that. So we're going to have the MIDI channel information focused on. The others we're going to leave on the through setting, which ignores them. It just passes them through untouched. Now we want to tell it, take the MIDI channel number 1 you're getting from the arpeggiator and make that into 4 different channels. So we're going to add a randomize command, which has a plus-minus randomization value, and we're going to say randomize between 1 and 4. We don't have negative values because MIDI channels don't have negative values. So if we tell it to do this, and we send the transformer into our monitor and the arpeggiator into the transformer, let's see what happens. Well, you can see right there, that's a good place to stop. The velocity is still being randomized. The notes are still being played from the loop in our arrange window, but the MIDI channels have now been transformed and randomized into 4 different channels. Now you have to think about that in a certain way, in this way, that it gets MIDI channel number 1 and it will add to that 1, 2, 3 and 4. So in the end you have 5 different values it is looking at, which means you will have 1 twice, so you will have more MIDI channel number 1 than anything else. So that's important to keep in mind, because you want to send MIDI channel number 1 later on to the instrument you want to hear most of. So I'll remind you again later. So that's the basic first step for creating a multi-timbral or arpeggiator. The next step would be to take the MIDI, all the information that we're getting from the transformer, and split all those MIDI channels up into different and discrete channels that we can then send on to our instruments. To do that, I have created in the meantime 4 transformer objects which receive the output of our earlier randomizing transformer object. And what I'm asking these transformers to do is basically, if we double click on it, I have chosen from this mode drop down menu the filter matching events mode, and what this command does is it filters out whatever matches your criteria, the one that you're setting up here. So I am asking it to filter everything out that is unequal 1. Basically, in other words, filter out, disregard, don't look at whatever isn't MIDI channel 1. So basically it is disregarding everything MIDI channel number 2, 3 and 4, and it's only sending out MIDI channel number 1. So if I now connect this object to our ES2 and play back the sequence, you can see it is only playing back bits of that original arpeggio that is being created by the arpeggiator object. obviously those are the bits that are being transmitted on MIDI channel number 1. The blank spots that are being left out are going to be transmitted on all the other MIDI numbers, which we're going to send to different instruments. So these other transformer objects have the same setting as that original, as that first one, but they're obviously going to all address their own MIDI channels. So if we then send on these on to our other instruments, we play back the sequence, we get the complete picture of that arpeggio that is being created, but built up by all the different instruments. Right, this is then the basic principle behind our multi-timbral arpeggiator. Now it is a bit plonky, and one should look at it as a raw material to some very nice things, and I am going to show you a few tweaks that I have done that will make this into a really exciting musical creation tool. The first thing is the issue with the octavation. So we have the ES2 that sort of has a pad-like preset selected. The XS24 has the tubular bells, which add very nice bell sounds in there, and we have the Ultrabeat, which should provide some basic drum sounds, but completely random. We're not talking about a drum beat here. And the Sculpture instance, which should maybe bring some low bass notes or something. So at the moment our arpeggiator is not only playing the notes that we have selected, but it's also playing it's also choosing among 3 octaves from that note and above. So in the case of Ultrabeat, we're getting many pitches that fall outside the range of Ultrabeat. Ultrabeat uses a certain range for its drum sounds, so we need to find a way to transpose the incoming notes back down, so we make sure that they all fall into the main body of Ultrabeat. So the way to do that is create yet another transformer and feed the old chain into it, and tell the transformer to look at incoming note events, leave the channels untouched, leave the velocity untouched, but look at the pitches and say, I'm going to subtract 2 octaves or a bit more. In this case we don't need to worry about keeping the pitches the same, because this is an approximation. So let's say something about there, 30, 34, 35. So it is going to look at all the incoming notes, and it's going to transpose it down 35 semitones. 36 would be 3 octaves. We're gonna, I don't know, somewhere in between. And now we need to let's copy that, so we're going to use that again for Sculpture, and now we're going to send that on to Ultrabeat. Now in the case of Sculpture we're going to use the same technique again, but since we have a harmonic construct here, the chords have a harmonic function, we need to keep the notes that are pitch important, that are pitch determined, to keep them within the octave range, so they don't change the pitch value. So we're going to transpose those. No, let's make that 3 octaves down. Yes, good. So now let's play that back. You can see the bass notes here.